Okay, we get into game one, and just specifically draft, is that I really agree with Jingwei priority. I think it's completely fine. It did give Barkus Fenrir over, which is obviously a very strong dive, but some people don't really value Fenrir too much, and Loki Odin is a fine trade. So top three for Giovanni Giorgio is really strong, top two for Mockingbird's really strong too, and the Mordred third pick kind of really shows that they are picking Barkus Fenrir for a dive comp. The Neath also facilitates that. Giovanni Giorgio kind of respond with a Cuckoo Athena. Athena slash Odin kind of forces the weird shell priority issue that a lot of teams are having at the moment, and it kind of makes Athena look really strong because people aren't buying beads. Obviously, fucking stupid, in my opinion. And then Cuckoo Jingwei, really strong backline. And the only issue I really have with drafting phase from both teams, like I think Mockingbird's draft is actually okay if they really double down on dive. The fifth pick Anubis kind of negates that. Because in my opinion, Anubis is like a total comp, protect the president, and Anubis doesn't really fit into a dive comp. Nuwa here, for example, would have been absolutely amazing in my opinion, but that's fine. It's all fine. But as if it's drawn up in a pre-played game plan, the pressure does come towards this Jingwei lane. You know, the Fenrir is able to pick her up because she doesn't have fucking beads. Believe it or not, you don't have beads into a Fenrir lane anyway. I'm happy that Mordred doesn't go under tower to attempt for a kill, and they use their pressure that they've just gotten in Doyle lane to pull this Gold Fury, and it turns into a really good early gold force. I think Dardes plays incredibly well. If you look at the map, Adapting's playing well right side, just getting vision, even though we can't get farm. I think it's played fine by both teams, outside of the fact that Jingwei has shot. That's all I'm going to say. Even here, Adapting doesn't fuck around with these two people. He just takes back camps. Like everyone is just farming off the pressure. It's really good. All right. Second clip of game one, I'm really happy because it's outside of Kha'Zix getting picked here. I think everyone kind of acts appropriately. The pick honestly could be an appropriate pick because red team have a lot of pressure to take purple again. Adapting answers back by red-blue side invades. The ADC Coast goes over to speed to try to clear it away from Mordred. Dardes goes to red side jungle to clear it away so Mordred can't get any more value off the pressure. And like Adapting goes to backs to get timers. I think it's greatly played by both teams. And really big kudos to like GG's team comp of clearing their own jungle after like a purple invade, like being really fast at doing it. And then also it turns into a weird punish it. I do think he can get out if he just ults the wall. I don't know why he was greedy. But still, I think it's really good by Dardes. It's good by Adapting. Good by Coast to kind of track and slow down the jungle also at that speed buff. Okay, you know it's a bad play when the map's not enlarged, right? We see that 3 minutes ago, GG's comp played the purple invade really well, and then they get a bit overzealous and they think that they can fight this. Or I'm unsure what they're actually thinking. Obviously, I'm not there. I don't have context. But the way they play, in my opinion, is incorrect. They're trying to like stop an invade into a Fenrir comp, an Anubis, a Mordred, and a Neath. Like just things that have a lot of burst, a lot of CC, that are really strong on levels, not necessarily strong on gold spikes. In comparison to the GG comp that really does rely on items. Loki is a gold reliant god. Jingwei is a gold reliant god. You can argue that Athena isn't a gold reliant god, but her follow-up around her are gods that need gold, so she's actually kind of useless right here. So, blue team answer way too hard on a purple invade, and it kind of, it doesn't give any lead or anything like that. I just think it's really poorly played. It doesn't really turn into anything. I just think it's dog shit. Look, it just shows that good players can play bad. Alrighty, we see that red team now plays a bit overzealous, and they just play... this is just a random Gold Fury, in my opinion. Their enemy buffs, GG's buffs, are spawning in 30 seconds. They could be playing for that, but instead, Mordred's up in Narnia. He has no follow-up off of Taunt by his own team. The Anubis ult gets Kukulkan ulted. Calvin takes a fuck ton of resources, which is really good for his comp, right? And now we get Adapting playing a high angle. We get the slows coming out. We get, like... It is so insanely bad for Mockingbird that GG's comp is winning this fight so early, right? A 13-minute Gold Fury pull has now given your team, like, 7 minutes of a disadvantage of tempo just kind of being lost. continue to invade that purple, continue to invade that speed. Pulling Gold Fury can come after the fact if GG make a slip up on your constant invade pressure. I think that's completely fine. But pulling a random gold, dumb as fuck. Like, actually dumb as fuck. I don't understand. Alright, one thing I really like is this passage of play here where Kha'Zix gets Calvin's ult. You know, the Fenrir ult is now down, which takes a bit of pressure away from Mockingbird's team comp. And then the information of 3 people showing up on the high wards of the left side jungle is really strong. Look at Coast, he's moving down on the map and he just resets. There's no reason to stay in lane. And Odin was moving up into the right side jungle. It's like this tide effect of, you know, Jingwei sees the information and acts accordingly and leaves, just gets the fuck out completely. And Odin rotates over to this objective that's pulled with great information use and really good tempo, as well as like Sunder being used. And if Odin was there earlier, there's possibility for Odin to use his, like, the first tick of his third ability, Gungi's Might, I think it's called, to give a lot of attack speed to his team. But I think that, like, the map play was just so nice there, off of a Fenrir ult and Vision. Like, that's so nuts to most teams. You'll never see them do that. Alrighty. This play, I think, is another great showing of tempo, funnily enough. There's a couple things that also keep going after this initial play. So we see Nika comes up. I think he's just ulting to see if he can get any shell relics. He's just fishing to see if anyone's going to bite in the relic trade. But what that play did, it also gave Jingwei, Cuckoo a bunch of tempo to get rid of this mid tier 1. We all know, surely by now, that mid tier 1 opens up the map pretty easily and allows you to look for some extra aggressive plays. And also, you know, once you're pulling Gold Fury here, for example, there's no tier 1 tower in mid to retreat to, so you have to run through the jungle, etc, etc. But we see that Fenrir just gets deleted off of a taunt. And that's, like, game theory of taunt into blow up can happen to absolutely anybody on Mockingbird's team comp due to the fact that they've built 5 beads. I will say it. Everything after the Fenrir pick, though, you could kind of micro-analyze and be like, we didn't kill Barkus due to XYZ. Oh, I should have, you know, dashed in. I should have used my taunt. It doesn't really matter, because after Fenrir, the play is Gold Fury, and they still secure Gold Fury anyway, so the fight after the fact, yeah, it's a bit messy, but who actually gives a fuck at all? Let's be honest. Clean Gold Fury, clean please. We're back, and Nika does it again, spoiler alert. But before Nika does it again with the sick cage, you see the effect of, like, Neath ult into Fenrir ult on the same target. Now there's no real tools on the side of Mockingbird's team comp. And all the tools are there, like the Odin Spear, even though it misses, it was still there to be used. The taunt's there to be used, the jump's back in. He's gonna have his Odin Spear again up. Look, here it is. Like, there's CC through the roof on the side of the GG team comp. And Mockingbird really relies on this pick, you know, use your ults, get the pick, get out kind of style of gameplay. Maybe use Barkus as, like, your AoE team fighter if things go awry. But when you don't get the pick with 2 ultimates, your team comp falls apart into something that just gets absolutely shit on by good drafts with good core CC in nearly everyone's kit, right? You can count the slow, you can count Jingwei knock up, you just can't count any Loki abilities, and that's it. It's like a free fire. Once again, I need to, like, Nika is destroying. We need to highlight it. Nika is fucking insane. I just really want to give a quick highlight and a quick shout out to the Calvin macro here. I don't know who called it, if it's him or someone else, but in a really bad situation, he still had the foresight to come in and try to eliminate farm from the speed buff, the purple, and things like that. Just strip away what he actually can. A lot of people will focus on what they can't do, and he knows that he can't fight, so you just sit under a tower. But he was able to try to at least attempt to split the map and take some resources off the map from GG. Okay, so with fire, GG grab the tower, they grab a Gold Fury, and then they all reset to start the ending phase of the game. And that starts by kind of getting a pick onto this Fenrir. You know, they use the cage, he ults, he phantom shells. That's a free tier 2 tower due to the Ancient Fury effect. And I thought that this would be a really clean choke out because, you know, really experienced team. But they kind of just hard force behind waves. Maybe because Nika's kind of unkillable, but it also, like, this whole siege phase is actually really messy. And you'll see, like, there's a random Neath ult that comes out here, I think. Like, It does 0 damage to Cuckoo, just like randomly. Allows them to go in on the wave. I think Nika's allowed to play crazily, but I think everyone else is baited kind of into playing as crazy as Nika is. And then, you know, I've said it nearly every video I've made, the sin of fighting outside the bird when you're behind kind of loses in the game. There's no need to make such a high risk versus reward play. And we know that we started that fight with, you know, Odin Cage on Fenrir. We end it with Odin Cage on Neath as well. And that's just game 1. I thought that ending phase just kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest. Just like random fighting. Nika Shaw can go 1v9 mode, and there's no resources to deal with him. I don't know. It was just really awkward. Like, it just looked really awkward, but it was still really fast. I don't know how to explain it. Okay, with Game 2's drafts, I think it's where I'm going to have to take a back seat and say I have no real idea of what people are thinking. Like, I can't really read through this draft and see identities or anything like that. Like, my best guess is that Odin first pick Ban gets rid of the true independent tank of Odin, and then you pick the other true tank of Barcus, right? They're just both indestructible solo laners that can frontline alone pretty easily. And then it's kind of like you're just picking what's good. There is some synergy, like I see Neath Loki, a good synergy, and then I see Ares Hecate, another good synergy. I see, you know, Athena Fenrir with a Cuckoo Khan. But then, you know, Thana 5th pick makes no sense, and I really believe that there's no threat onto Hecate this game, and I think Hecate is a really easy god to shut down in draft. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but yeah, not too convinced by either team. Okay, so Dudu starts the game on the enemy red buff. It's a really bad play, in my opinion, to start red and not have your blue dropped for you. I think this start can be okay if Loki does blue to red by himself and then goes to the mid camp. But because blue is up, Dudu's forced to kind of do this, or Fenrir takes it, and then like, he's missing waves and his own blue buff. It's just completely awful start, but easily fixed. Not like, it can be fixed. It's not that bad. Okay, we get to the first buff respawn, and I start sounding like a broken record because it's a Jingwei lane, and we're invading purple. What a shocker. It's really good. Loki paths over, but if we look at the other side of the map, not that good. Fenrir Thanatos definitely should be taking red buff here. There's no excuse for that high pressure duo to not be running at this Barcus to invade him out of red. Push him out of the jungle, make him stay in lane. Now, another misplay that they do is after they do their own buffs, they kind of walk to blue, which you can say, but Sharks, they know that Dudu did that weird start, so they're able to punish it accordingly. Yeah, okay, let's look at that, because they don't punish accordingly. But first we'll watch it play out, just to see what happens, because it ends up worst case scenario for the GG team, where Barcus is able to secure his own blue buff. There might have been a misplay here where he didn't ult, it's whatever. But he also gets the wave. So he gets both sources of farm in a position where he should be choked out pretty efficiently. I'll show you what I mean. Now, my biggest issue with this play is that Barcus should be put into a position where he has to choose which source of farm he gets. He should either have to choose to gamble the blue buff or secure a wave. What happens is he chooses to gamble a blue buff, but he also gets the wave, okay? So what happens is Barcus comes to here, he fights, he doesn't get it, but the aftermath is he's able to farm quite safely. I have an issue with that because I think that Fenrir, like, at a base scenario, watching this play, Fenrir should have shoved Barcus under. Thana can just play tempo, and if Barcus commits to this, if he burps, you know, Thana can silence the burp. If he flops, it is what it is, and it's a 50-50 on the blue buff, with the winning play being Barcus losing farm to tower, right? And you might say, Sharks, it's only 1 or 2 minions. Okay, you're lazy. He's losing gold either way, is my response to that. The other really cool response that could have been done, and I think should have been done, to be honest, is actually role swapping these two just for the moment, because Thanatos level 4 probably would have been really beneficial to get him level 5 off this wave to shove, and I think Fenrir has a way better time playing tempo on this blue buff and pulling Barcus away with Fenrir ult, or just being annoying in general. Now what we do see is Barcus does misplay. He could have killed Thanatos. He could have flop altered on the buff secure with a Neath ult to really secure the kill. But even though he doesn't get the kill, any 50-50s the buff, he's still able to clear the next wave with no problem, and I kind of have an issue with that. Not a big fan of that. Okay, after that big waffle by me, we get into some fundamental, really easy smite, where it turns into the Barcus flops the wave, he gets 3-man ganked, his team in response rips a Gold Fury, and it is what it is. Now, the Gold Fury does get stolen by Coast. I don't care if I'm telling you before you see it. Coast dies for it, then he gets 2 sets of beads. It's a really interesting, is this worth it kind of play. Obviously for Giovanni Giorgio, it is really easy to say that we've killed Barcus and we get Gold Fury. It's such a worth play, plus our team scales with gold, so we're really happy to just continue splitting the map and winning both sides. Like, really unlucky for Mockingbird. Okay, we get into I don't want to say a non-EU play, but look, Loki gets shown on some vision, they Athena taunt Kuko ult him, he gets clapped, he nearly gets out alive, and Kenneth nearly dies for it too. Maybe if there was a tiny bit more variation, it's a bad play. But he also beads as he's dying. Now let's see what the impact of that beads is. Now, I think showing the setup is actually important because we see that Fenrir gets priority in solo lane. He walks over to the red buff, and all he does is he gets some buff timers for his team. So he gets the buff timer. We see Dardes plays for priority in mid. We see Adapting's not even close, but Athena is in mid and Ares is in duo, which means that there is mid priority and it's a really safe red. Just to have a look. Okay, so both lanes have priority and they're both path towards that red buff that is spawning. And they don't know Loki's really there until he maybe showed on that ward, but they were just on time for red. Now, remember, we just got Loki beads, so it's an instant punish. And that's just like a really, I don't know, really clean-cut invade. Just super nice. Pretty bad by Calvin to be in duo, to be honest. Okay, this passage of play includes a lot of pressure used on Calvin here. So they use quite a bit. Hecate uses ult in response. Nika uses ult. We just see a lot of resources used, and what that eventually gives Giovanni Giorgio is time/tempo. Okay, once again, I'm talking about tempo this video. What a fucking shocker. Now, I want you to pay attention to the map, and I think Loki really misplays this farming path because the blue team do a decent job of slowing down the red team's disengage from Gold Fury. Yeah, you can flip gold completely fine, but all this chase after the fact is actually attempting to slow down Giovanni Giorgio from farming or using any manpower, sorry. They also get a pick on Dardes, so it looks pretty good. But they could have chased this, honestly, a little bit harder, kept getting more resources, and buying more time for Loki to be splitting the map. I think Loki really misplayed by not running right lane, taking that right-hand tower, and just, I don't know, just securing more money. I only really recorded this play due to a grounding moment maybe for Europe, because this is shit. Like, all 10 players playing awfully here. Like, it's a massive shit fight. There's no shutdown gold on the map. Like, Adapting's on a killing spree and continues to play overly aggressive. There's no camps spawning. There's no Gold Fury up. There's only the gold camp in the middle of the map up. Everyone's fighting behind their own wave, so there's no farm even being done at the same time. That 30 seconds of European gameplay looked like a minor region. 30 seconds. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. We're about to see Jingwei back and finish a Demon Blade. So, let's talk about the Spectral Armor pickup that Calvin's done versus the Jingwei's Demon Blade. Okay, I've tried to record this way too much, and I'm gonna not really stress about if I get all the details correct or not. But Spectral is a 2300 gold item. It gives you 60 physical protection, it gives you 200 max HP, and it gives you an aura around you, which debuffs the enemy gods around you by taking away 20% attack speed and 20% crit chance. Now, if no one's around you, you're not getting that debuff aura. The item's worth 1905 worth of stats. Imagine you're up against a mage and the 20% crit chance and 20% attack speed isn't that good. That's where that number would come to play. But most of the time, it would be worth 48 because of that attack speed debuff. And then it gets really interesting when you add that critical chance debuff into the mix, because then the item becomes worth $6,000 at a 262% cost efficiency rate. Absolutely through the roof into crit hunters. Please buy this item. All right, now it's Demon Blade's turn. Demon Blade as an item, 20 strength, 20 attack speed, 20 crit chances, 20, 20, 20. But if you crit someone, you gain an extra 15%. So when you crit someone and you have passive going, the stats are worth 4571. That's 157% cost efficient. Because it's so expensive, it's a 2900 gold item, right? Demon Blade without passive though, it's 2900, it gives 20, 20, 20 of every stat, strength, attack speed, crit chance. Those 20, 20, 20 stats are actually worth 3671 gold. So you are getting a bit of a discount with Demon Blade, making it 126% cost efficient. But this is where it gets kind of interesting, because if you buy a Demon Blade into a Spectral Armor actually negates the attack speed and crit chance altogether. So you're getting rid of a lot of stats from the item, which means that you're spending 2,900 gold just to get 20 strength. That means you're turning Demon Blade into an item that is only 31% cost efficient, and you're wasting 2,000 gold of the enemy's efficient gold. Okay, so luckily, after my massive ramble and their reset, there was a massive technical difficulty on the high-res broadcast, so we weren't able to see what happened, but we can safely assume that Loki popped off. He got 4 kills at a siege attempt somehow, and the left bird goes down. So we're about to set up for the next fire. Left bird down. It's a very strong map state for Mockingbird. Okay, this is one of the most awkward fire giants I think I've kind of seen ever. Like, the Hecate Neath Ares just pulling FG. It is kind of mind-blowing because you wouldn't think that Hecate Neath would do an objective, but I liked... let's point this out. Look at this Hecate ult that's coming up here. It's great. It's over the wall. It's follow-up off the Fenrir ult, and it gets the beads active, which forces Ares to TP in and then get the ult back onto Athena. Thanatos does actually get an execute, but, one Neath ult and he's gone. It's that simple. And then Cuckoo gets a really insane ult on both backliners of Mockingbird. Dardes nearly saves the game, just from micro alone. And if he wasn't, I don't want to say lucky, it was a good ult, but if the Cuckoo ult wasn't that lucky, it's an even more disastrous fight for Giovanni, Giorgio. But pretty cool fire play with the Hecate Ares. Really big fan of that comp. And Hero kind of playing a bit fast-paced in that fight. Unlike the NA, we're seeing Loki spamming twos, but Hero just got involved. Big fan, big fan. All in all, kind of chaotic. Game 2, no? Pretty chaotic. And shit draft by Giovanni. No frontliner. Really rough to play. Okay, so getting to the draft for Game 3. We see, I think, probably the worst misdraft of the game. Mockingbird, I can see their attempt to get the best backliner and the best jungler for a massive trade. But they give over Baron. Baron this patch is incredibly broken. They give over Barkus as well, which in my opinion, also top 2 god with Baron. And they also get a Fenrir. Now, there is some kind of attempt to counterpick their draft with an Ares, and I think that's, good thought process, but it's just too much. Baron, Barkus, Fenrir is just a bit too much, in my opinion. So, the first buffs of the game spawn, and we see that the pressure of Fenrir and Susano comes over to blue side, which should be be expected, to be honest. And we see Athena get punished. There is a kind of pseudo game theory at play there where you should be playing towards the enemy's globals. For example, playing on the Athena lane because she can't ult and have impact in her own lane. Straight into the next buff timer, and we see a great adaptation here done by Herox where he plays for the Doi side pressure. He does misplay a tiny bit. Pay attention to the map, sorry, but Fenrir does have pressure or enough pressure by himself to invade the Athena and make her blue buff really uncomfortable. But once again, great adaptation by the Loki to come to this Doi lane. We'll see a misplay here that after this is a fine kill, don't get me wrong, but after this kill, he doesn't walk in, or neither of those three walk to purple for the enemy, walk to speed for the enemy, and there's no invade thought process, which in my opinion is just really not good enough. You can't be playing for kills for no reason other than a kill. just lazy. Like, you should be on those buff timers. It's basic smite, to be honest. Sorry to once again bring it up, but it's a Loki, a Jingwei, and a Kukulkan composition. And they're kind of soft defending this Gold Fury from being done by an early rotation from Fenrir that's been called out by Athena because Fenrir had the back. So they just show up and kind of give a bit of presence around the gold pit. Now, soft defending is done really well. All you have to do is make sure that you don't lose discipline and you don't pull the objective. All you have to do is just not let them pull the objective. But there is a condition where I think it's okay to actually pull an objective whilst you're soft defending. It's in this situation where GG's team comp has acknowledged that they're not getting anything here for free and they don't have the damage to be able to pull Gold Fury. Right here, when they show the disinterest of the Gold Fury, is a great example of where Mockingbird should be able to pull that Gold Fury to buy Athena a bit more time, and also make a really awkward dilemma for this Fenrir and the Sano who want to go do their solo side jungle. Maybe it keeps them close to Gold Fury, keeps them mid-side, and it lets Athena continue farming a lot more, maybe proxying a couple more waves and things like that. I should preface that it's only for tempo too. You wouldn't be pulling that Gold Fury to secure it or to fight. You'd be pulling it to get a reaction back to the Gold Pit by blue team, and then disengaging once again. Continuing the Gold Fury theme of the couple of minutes that we've been watching, red team actually force it, and it's a weird force in my opinion, but not due to map state or priority. Even though priority's been ignored by both teams, they're just pulling a Gold Fury whilst minions are fighting in the middle of the lanes. It's just that the Kukulkan slash Jingwei slash Loki comp doesn't really need the Gold Fury to be effective, and they should just be happy to play the game slow and let the game scale up in time. Making these early slash mid game plays kind of contradictory to the identity of the team comp, and like, you should be happy being at a 5k deficit, to be honest, by 20 minutes. If you are 7k down at 20 with a Jingwei Loki Kukulkan comp, you're kind of even, you know, like there is scaling gold values there. So it's just weird to me that they did make a random Gold Fury play behind minion waves, no prio, no reasoning, no anything at all. They just ripped it. All right, let's look at the Sharks bingo card, because there's a forced play. There's priority lost in mid because Baron gets to clear a mid wave without Kukulkan farming at all. Fenrir gets to catch a wave and farm a wave also. There's no buff spawning. They're a scaling team comp. They're focusing the support. They're using absolutely everything on nothing, essentially. This is a full PvP fight. It's like you're watching Arena on the Conquest map. This is something that you could maybe expect from SOC players slash minor regions such as like OCE, Latam, Brazil. It's really weird for me to be seeing this in what has been a pretty clean set so far. And in Europe, of all places, they play like this. It's really weird. Like, everything gets used and Herox dies. And the big thing is that Baron gets an extra wave, Fenrir gets an extra wave. That's it. Like, shit fight. So at the tail end of the massive shit fight that happens, we see that Hawk, for some reason, stays under his mid tier 1 tower, which is actually the most unsafe place on the map for nearly anyone to be, and he gets his beads forced by Susan Pool. Now, some really fundamental smite just starts taking place off this beads force, similar to what we saw in, I think, game 2 with the Loki punish after punish after punish, and it just happens instantly. We see Nika jump in, he ults, and he picks up that Cuckoo that has just beads under his tower. It turns into a kill. It's decently clean. Like, for me, I'm happy that that shit fight that we just watched had some form of closure. And this just turns into like a free objective for Giovanni, Giorgio. So after fire, they pick up a pyro, they being Giovanni, Giorgio, and Hawk once again sits under a tower alone. He gets picked by a Fenrir, and it just turns into a free pick. It's pretty bad by Hawk to have 2 punishes on the 1 set of beads. He still had about, what, 40 seconds, 30 seconds left on his beads timer, because it popped. I think he got him popped at 19:10. It's a 3-minute cooldown, so 22:10 was his safe timer. I just don't understand what he's doing under the tier 2 tower alone. Cuckoo should be insanely safe to stop sieges. 2 more things that I want to bring your attention to is Jingwei backing was really bad. You're allowed to give this this bird go. Jingwei could have just stayed left and shoved out towers, but she cleared her own jungle, and it made it really awkward. Now, the bird dying, in my opinion, is great for the team of Mockingbird because of a quality of life change that just went through whilst they were playing this set. Fire minions now give double the amount of gold, and that is perfect for a scaling composition. There was a clip that I wanted to show where Coast is trying to be picked by the Mockingbird team comp. There's a massive misplay, 1 by Coast and 2 by Mockingbird. They tried to pick Coast, the Loki was solo instead of duo. It just turned to shit. The clip got corrupted, so I'm just going to skip it. We just see that the Mockingbird team is happy to trade a tier 2 tower for a fire giant. A lot of casual viewers were pretty upset with that trade, but the fact of the matter is, a Kukulkan comp should be really happy to just sit under bird and defend, especially into like a really short range composition that the Giovanni Giorgio team comp actually is. So we enter the siege phase, and I thought that there was going to be a massive misplay here to dive this mid bird, just absolutely raw dogging it. But Giovanni Giorgio, I don't mind that attempt of a resource burn. Fenrir ult to see what their reaction is completely fine. They do kind of stay around for 1 wave in mid lane. It's not the end of the world because they realize that this is a bad idea into a cuckoo, so they leave and they clean up the tier 2 tower in left whilst Fenrir goes mid. This 4-1 split, in my opinion, was the correct way to go through the whole sieging phase. We see a very clean tier 2 tower, and then we see a clean snap to the Ancient Fury, and Ancient Fury does allow these birds to be looked at quite easily because, the debuff to towers, it's pretty obvious and it makes it easier to siege. But one thing that I didn't really like too much, and I don't, once again, I'm talking in retrospect, I'm going to be talking about the future that happens whilst they're on fire, whilst they're on gold, sorry, is that they kind of just 5-man mid. One thing I really wanted them to do here is give the Death Toll solo laner the Naga that was right next to the Fury Pit, and then send him right or left while the rest of them go right or left, and split the map massively, completely split the map as far apart as possible. That'll shut down the Kukulkan siege defense, which is really strong, and it also gives a side lane, hopefully, and ideally it gives a side lane bird going down, because mid lane birds, they're kind of like fake birds. They're not real. The easiest lane to defend, it's just funneling more farm into the enemy team. I just really believe that they should have 4-1 split, duo, solo, and created a really hard issue for Mockingbird to focus. There's another technical difficulty, so there's a weird pause, but the one thing that we did see is that Barcus on the side of Giovanni Giorgio gets some deep vision into Mockingbird's jungle, and all the vision catches them. They all enter that massive vision area top right near the blue side jungle, and they all sit in this bush. So Giovanni Giorgio know that the entire team of Mockingbird is actually setting up an ambush, and I think Nika griefs because they're planning to play for an AoE stun, and he can't jump the wall by the looks of it. It turns it into an awkward situation. But that corridor, kind of a nightmare to fight a Kukulkan into such skinny corridors, because his tornado always gets maximum value and his ult's a higher percentage chance to hit. So there's a massive power play now. It's a 2-for-1 trade, and my biggest issue is that everyone on the side of everyone on the side of Mockingbird backs here. Loki had a free end angle, okay? Loki had a free dilemma to force by teleporting through the solo lane teleporter and really creating an issue at that Phoenix. I think it was a massive misplay there by Herox to not really macro super hard and use the man advantage, the power play, if you will, to force a disgusting situation. And then what happens is, sure, that's one answer to the play, but they don't do anything. Mockingbird actually don't do anything. And for me, there's that bird obviously stands out, but also engaging onto the Baron is the only play that you have in this situation. Yes, your comp is good at doing FG, but FG creates this weird 4v4 now. You're team fighting in a 4v4 because Calvin's getting chunked, and no one was on mage duty, which is a cardinal sin for me. Nika gets a Sunder Steal, the Cuckoo ult just comes in and gets 0 value, and then Nika just goes on a rampage here. His beads are forced, Cuckoo just gets jumped on, there's nothing that they can really do. Double stun, he can't kill him, the sustain's too high, Spirit Robe's a broken item. Yeah, it's just rough that they decided with a man advantage, they being Mockingbird, to 50-50 Fire Giant into a Sunder, into a Fenrir Sunder on top of it. You know, like Fenrir ult makes him CC immune. The Sunder's pretty easy to hit if you're CC immune. He can also pick up Cuckoo Khan if he really wanted to micro, pick up the Cuckoo so he can't ult, and then Sunder whilst he's in your mouth. Would have been a sick play, but really unfortunate way to end that game. I really thought it was a winning angle for Mockingbird there. They just did the one thing that they shouldn't have done and just blindly pulled the objective.